This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, I am waiting for a couple of additional joins. Um, I'll give it about 2 minutes. So we have a light agenda today, and I see a couple of names that I don't think I've attended the workshop, or at least I haven't had the chance to meet with. Would you like to introduce yourselves by any chance?
Hey, Bobby, I think I'm probably one of the folks. This is Steve Dembski. I work for
Hey, Steve.
ARM, and I think you've spoken to a colleague of mine, Deval Parikh.
Yep.
So
I'm very glad to have you here.
yeah, glad to be here. I think I don't know if I have a good. Well, let me say this differently. I think we're interested in what's going on here. I don't know if we know exactly how we would like to insert ourselves or get more involved, but I'm kind of keeping an eye on things in the meantime.
Sounds good. That works too. Anybody else? Well, we have a few minutes. Would you like to? Sorry?
Hi. Can
Hey,
you hear me?
Terry. Yes, we can hear you
Yes.
now.
Okay. Actually, this is my second time joining this call, and
Yep.
from WeWin, and actually we are the board designers. So I just want to get to know because this subgroup is on the OCP servers, so I just want to understand what is the ODSA, and we try to understand if we can. We are not sure we can get involved or not, but yeah, just want
Okay.
to. Yeah.
Very nice. Welcome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good morning.
Yep.
Hey, Bobby, it's Sam. I'm here.
Hey, Sam.
And Greg.
Hey, Greg. All right. I think let's begin. So actually, maybe what I'll do is, since we have a bunch of several new joins, I should have done this last week. I will do a quick technical introduction to the ODSA, and I'll take 2 minutes, and then we'll go through. Today's agenda is basically going through status updates for each of the groups. So excuse me for 1 second while I start. You can't see my screen, right now?
Yes.
I can see something.
Yeah. Yes.
You can see the PowerPoint deck, ODSA technical introduction?
I see a list
No.
of attendees.
Oh, no, then that's the wrong one.
I see now viewing Bobby Vinacota's screen is what I saw, but it was your
It's not allowing
document
me to
that you're
share my
editing.
whole screen for some reason. Okay, now I get it. All right. So in terms of what we are, we are a new server subgroup. This is probably better done last week, but this week is better late than never. We're essentially a open architecture to build domain-specific architectures from chiplets. And our focus, I won't go into the technical motivation, but our focus is on making a group of chiplets work together as though they're a part of the same chip. And we wish to do it with an open interface. All of these multi-chiplet products to date have been built with proprietary interfaces. And we're attempting to define an open interface so that you can get chiplets from multiple vendors to interoperate. our goal is to define a scalable interface which can go into a whole bunch of OCP form factors that have been introduced over the recent past. We ultimately want to make a cross-chiplet ODSA fabric. Our focus, so we've had some reasonably quick growth. We started this effort in October, and we joined OCP about a month ago now. And we've had about 2 workshops. We're planning a third one in June. What we're really doing is, this is our focus, what's in the middle, the interface standards, to define a cross-layer interface. As reference designs, we'd like to implement a POC with today's silicon. And also, once these interfaces are defined, we'd like to implement a prototype, which is kind of the next generation POC with chiplets that support the interfaces we've defined. And we believe that fundamentally the way business gets done will change once you go to chiplets from chips. A lot of the names that you see on these are on the call right now. Quinn and Jawad, Quinn is from Acronix, Jawad is from Zglue, and they're leading the effort to build the POC. Mark Kemmerly and Aaron Sullivan are working on the interface and standards, and Sam Fuller and Jeff McGuire are driving the business side of this. So that's roughly a sort of the nickel tour of where we're at. So having done that, are there any questions? Does anybody have any of our new attendees any questions I can answer? Okay, in that case, Quinn and Jawad, the floor is yours. Would you like to start with an update on the POC? Do you have any? Should I make you the presenter?
I don't have anything to present. Jawad, do you?
Okay.
Well, so I think it's really the document that we had started, and
Okay, let me bring that up.
We introduced to folks in the last meeting, and we're just looking for people to kind of put some high-level thinking, just write that down. That's what it is. So one of the things that we did was, we in the last meeting said that please look at this document and put your name on at least 2 sections. One is more implementation oriented section, and the other one is more high-level section. So the idea. Hello?
It may be worth, since we have about 3 or 4 new people on the call, it may be just worth going through I'll pull up the POC, the slides, at least defining what the POC is for a second. And then the document may, as an introduction. Does that make sense?
Sure.
I'm trying to find, oh, here it is. Please, yeah, sorry, go ahead. I apologize.
So I think probably Quinn can talk to it. Quinn, we have the picture of POC architecture with the 3 chiplets on. Do you want to give a brief intro for that?
Sure. So the proof of concept, the goal is to create a part that can do both network acceleration features as well as potentially computational storage solutions. So we can demonstrate how a complex system in a package would move data around and connect. So we think this is a good stress test of showing the primary use cases for a system like this. So we have a network processor, an FPGA for data plane acceleration, and a CPU subsystem, primarily for control plane, but also potentially for data plane for storage. The devices are, in this case, these are legacy devices, so these are existing silicon. And so they're connected by a PCIe Gen 3 by 8 links. And then that's also the connection to the host is a PCIe Gen 3 by 8. This is where internally we would replace it with the chiplet link, as that's, but we want to model that and approximate it using this PCIe links that we have available. We have network connectivity coming off the west end here, and we have storage implemented via a number of PCIe links. And so this could be configured for a number of different styles of bump in the wire style network acceleration, or a sidecar style network traffic acceleration. And as I said, also computational storage solutions.
I was looking for the parts. Yeah.
And so the FPGA, we're looking at an older part from Achronix. The network processor, we're looking at one of Netronome's parts. The CPU complex, we're looking at an NXP part. And then the gray box here is all the substrate where these all come together within the package. So I think that's kind of the overview tour.
And the connectors.
Oh yeah, we have the direct to package optical or copper connection available solution. So what we're trying to do with this other document is generate the requirements for driving this POC in the dimensions of how is this, we want to make sure as we do this proof of concept project, we are answering the important questions on the architectural level. So what are the architectural questions we need to make sure that we are validating, physical implementation issues that we should be making sure that the POC can evaluate, and also business cases, business issues that need to be stressed by the POC effort. And so in this document, we have, those are the main things we want to do. And then, what are the use cases that we should be covering from in this case, how this chip would be used, and then the more in-depth of each of those subsections then of physical and architectural and business. And so what we're looking for is as broad of input as we can get to make sure as we dive deeper into the POC project that the effort is going in to answer the important questions and move the project forward, and not just sort of an engineering exercise for engineering's sake. Any questions?
And we're looking for help. Section 9, maybe where we're looking for help. And Jawad has some thoughts there.
Actually, one of the objectives of this document is to have some bare minimum requirements defined where we can solicit help and make it easier for other people to kind of determine how much can they contribute. This idea actually came from Ramin at the last meeting. So that's when we started thinking about, okay, we should just, explain this in a little bit more, more detail and in a bit more actionable manner, so folks can can figure out where they can put in some resources. So in writing this document, we're not trying to make a super long document. We really are asking for folks to identify the area of their interest and then kind of work with the team and just write down some explanation of it. In one extreme, this could be like a product requirement document. It eventually probably will grow to that size, but at this stage, the section 9 is really the objective of it, which is there's a lot of thoughts that are kind of scattered in the group and people have different interests. So I think we should all just openly write those things down here so the group can then figure out who can help in what area. So after the last meeting, there were several folks who expressed interest in helping, but they had this comment that we don't exactly know what is it that we are being asked to do, and that's actually one of the things that this document will help develop. I mean, we can have 2 or 3 folks just finish the whole document. That's a possibility. It's just better that we as a group at least have some contribution to it.
Okay. So in terms of, we're definitely looking for, Larry is doing the POC package design. We're definitely looking for help in developing a software development vehicle for the board, the actual software on the board, and then an OCP line card based on this. So we meet about once a week on average on Tuesdays. So if you're interested, please ping Quinn, Jawad, or me. Okay. Quinn, Jawad, anything else?
I just have one question, Bapi. That
Yes,
is,
sir.
we've identified these 3 chiplets, and we've also identified the optical/copper connector. So how do we, if somebody wants to help with the start of the design, how do they get access to those data sheets?
Yes, good question. I think I can get Netronomes. I'm assuming Sam and Quinn can get those data sheets as well.
Yes.
Does that require? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now there's going to be additional information. Well, I mean, when you get to the POC package, I think the die footprint information will be, I mean, I don't think I'm going to be able to share that without NDAs and things like that, but the SoC information, package device information can be provided.
Right. Okay.
Well, Sam, at this stage, we are really talking about capturing a schematic,
Yep.
and then doing a design start for that particular substrate. So the physical design information will be needed.
Mhm.
So are we going to go and have NDAs between every 2 pairs of the companies involved, or how will that work?
I don't know. I just know that that's information that's not, I mean, that's one of the challenges on the business team is to figure out how you can provide that information within a group like this. But it's just historically, right, that's not something that we would communicate, like the C4 bump placement and things like that.
Actually, I have an action item there to. One option for us is to do the POC under a joint development agreement, where we can exchange some confidential information among the participants in the POC. Maybe
Right.
I'll get that kicked off next week.
Yeah, I think we're going to need something like that for the POC. And then more generally, I think for the, I think it is one of the business challenges that needs to be solved with the group is how, what level of information should be shared in a standardized manner to facilitate development of, these, the substrates for multi-chip packages.
I think Jawad has some proposals there in terms of an open interface.
Mhm.
Well, so the proposal essentially makes it easier to exchange information, but it doesn't solve the legal problem or the, understanding the intention, right? So that has to be either solved as like, these one-on-one NDAs or maybe joint development agreement, because without physical information, it's just not really possible to make much progress on this POC to the next level of implementation.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree.
Has anyone spoken with the Open Compute Project folks about how they've done this?
Right. That's the JDA. They have a vehicle called the Joint Development Agreement, but it typically covers the early stage of developing either a specification or a design. We have a more generic problem of how do you exchange this information when you're not doing something special like the POC.
I see.
And next week I'll go off and get some get some more information on this on the 19th. Alex, right?
Yeah, Alex.
Okay. Anything else, Quinn or Jawad?
Nope, I think that's it for us.
Okay. Well, if you can contribute to the document, please ping us. We're trying to make this a requirements and design document for the POC. Okay. Is Mark on? No, Mark. Okay. Hey, Sam and Jeff, do you want to do any update on the business side?
Yeah, we can do a brief update. We've Jeff and I have kind of coordinated on our next steps. We haven't yet had separate group meetings. We're planning to begin that in the next week or two for put out a request for participation. I know we've had Alex and some other folks indicate they'd be interested in participating as well. The initial charter view is there's at least three issues that we know need to be worked on, and the output of this group is obviously not going to be a specification or a proof of concept, but it's really thinking ahead on the business challenges that would impede adoption of this type of technology. One attribute is the chiplet supply chain, and in terms of how that should work, what roles need to be filled, and what are the likely candidate companies to fill those roles in terms of chiplet development, IP development, substrate development, inventorying of chiplet devices, and who owns data sheets, who owns end customers, how does that all work? A second is IP licensing, and what becomes open source or through a group like ODSA within OCP, and what is still proprietary, and how do those license models work for companies that are kind of contributing technology into this environment. And the third would be the required standards, and those would be specifications, requirements around test or quality or die data, or things that would be expected deliverables for technology, and ensuring that we've kind of identified those up front, and that the companies that are participating have got a template from which to start.
Say those three again, Sam.
The chiplet supply chain.
Okay.
Yeah. Second would be IP licensing. And the third would be required standards for test quality, die data, et cetera.
Okay.
And I think I got Jeff. Was there anything else that we needed to that I didn't cover?
Sam, I think that's a good summary. And we also talked a little bit about, and Alex, I think, referred to it earlier, what's already available through the OCP. Are there things we can leverage there to help facilitate some of what we're trying to do? Some things are going to be unique. This is a unique space for a lot of companies,
Right.
but some things probably can be leveraged.
Yep. And then we were looking at, because a lot of the participants are in California, probably afternoon meetings, midweek afternoon meetings. So we'll need to put out a request for what times work best, and we will do that. We're thinking about some weekly meetings to kick off, and then adjust the frequency based on what we think we need.
And anybody who's interested contacts you, right?
Yes.
I know Alex was.
Yeah, Boppy, I was going to say, you mentioned Alex before, and I think Alex is on the call. Alex, nice to talk to you again. And then also, I think Nick from Google. Is that right?
Nick seems to be on the call.
Yes, I'd be interested to participate.
Okay, great. Boppy, was there anyone else that's approached you about wanting to participate?
No, those are the two names and of course, Jim from Netronome.
Right, sure. Yeah. Okay.
Out of that, no, I don't have any other name off the top of my head.
Okay, we can start with that as a core group then.
Yep. And I'm happy to, I'm happy to help in setting up the meetings if you guys need it. Let me know. Anything else you'd like to cover?
That's all.
Okay. Greg, anything you'd like to share on the analog definition or on the analog interface analysis?
Well, we have looked at it and found, I guess there's two things. One is that there's a heritage to these interfaces that can matter. That is, some of them come out of the world of long-haul telecoms. Latency is irrelevant. And some come out of the putting together high-speed compute systems that are very latency critical. And they have they share a lot, and if you're talking purely analog circuits, they seem fairly interchangeable, but the reality is the interfaces tend to be standardized in one of these two worlds, and we can't really ignore that. And the other point where that was reinforced is if we want there to be an IP ecosystem, we need to not just standardize on the interface which is used to connect one chiplet to the next chiplet, but also on the interface that connects the IP to the core of the chiplet. And so there's a suggestion that we should be aligning ourselves with PCIe, which has a standard pipe interface to the core of the chiplet. It comes from the low latency compute, high performance compute side of the world rather than the networking side. But the argument there is that putting a bunch of chiplets together on a single chip looks more like a compute platform than it looks like a kilometers long data link. And so that seems like the more broadly compatible interface to use there. The challenge, of course, is that PCI SIG controls the definitions of PCI. There are other interfaces that have their own standards bodies, and we really should be working with those standard bodies for whichever interface we decide we want to try and go forward with. So largely, we looked at the problem and decided the problem is bigger than we had been talking about. It's not just the analog problem of, how do the wires carry data from one chip to the next, but it's the bigger problem of how do you make it all fit in a system and make sense.
And so our immediate focus is the pipe interface.
So yes, our immediate focus is the pipe interface, which implies PCIe type signaling rather than network type signaling. Or I said PCIe type semantics and a PCIe type network stack. And for example, this may make interfaces that require a lot of forward error correction more challenging because there's latency in those activities. And PCIe is really meant for a low latency interface. It also means that you may find that if you have a networking interface, it doesn't have a PCIe interface to the chiplet. And without the ability to connect to the chiplet with the right semantics, you don't really have a usable interface. But yes, we looked at this, talked about it, and it seems like the PCIe pipe interface is the right interface, the right semantics to be using on the chiplet core to chiplet interface boundary.
This group also meets about once a week. So each of our
Yes.
groups meets about once a week. Ping me or ping the subgroup leaders if you'd like to join in these meetings. Any questions for Greg? Actually, I'm sorry. I realize any questions for Sam or Jeff as well. I apologize. Okay. So then I know Mark and Ramin have been developing a proposal for a bunch of wires based interface, but I don't believe either of them are on the call.
Yeah.
So we made some progress on that, and we'll save an update for next week.
Right, and they are focused on the chiplet to chiplet part of that interface.
Right.
Even that we would have to figure out how does it fit into PCIe. But it seems like Intel is doing that already on AIB. They just have not shared that with us.
Right. Oh, I actually have an update. Let me go look. But they've done a preliminary analysis, but not a detailed spec is the word I got back.
Bobby, I'm on the line, and I've been working at definition. I mean, made some progress, but I need to sync up with Mark.
Okay.
So Mark seems to be busy these days for some special event they have.
Right. Right. So we're working. Mark and Ramin are working on a turbo bunch of wires interface definition. So a 5-layer interface between chiplets. 5-layer interface option between chiplets. Okay. In that case, I wanted to cover 2 topics quickly. One was next week. I think I have an action item to do the JDA from OCP. I'll go chase that down. The second thing is, I think we've been meeting for a few weeks now. One of the big open items pending on my list is a group charter. So I'd like to take your help in creating a charter. I'll work on a draft this week, and we can get your yay and nay next week, or get your inputs and refine it in our meeting next week. Then we have the regular status update for next week. And finally, Jawad, I'm wondering, maybe this is too full, but do you want to talk about the open interface spec a bit more, or you want to punt it for the week after or some other time?
I think week after probably will be better.
Okay, so we'll go for 4/19. And finally, we're working on the next workshop in June. I think our topics are basically going to be, well, it's intended to be a working meeting, just to take our POC, where you can see that, we're trying to get a requirements doc done fairly quickly. We are then on the interface side. I think Greg and co will do the pipe side, and Mark and Ramin will have an interface spec. And on the business side, I'm assuming that Sam and Jeff will have a lot more to report in June. Are there any other topics? Somebody, at the last workshop, we had 10-minute talks from different people interested in participating. If you have any, I'm happy to hear any ideas now, or if you're welcome to ping me offline if there's some other topics you'd like to cover at the workshop.
I have a suggestion. This is Ali Hussein from On Semiconductor. One suggestion for that conference is that I just actually recently went to a talk by Eugene Chow of PARC, and he's doing some very interesting things with electrostatic arrangement of chiplets, more like 10 to 100 nanometer, 100 micron dimension type things, Chow, C-H-O-W. So he might be an interesting guest speaker. It's more R&D level, but for future types of assembly process, it really goes toward, it's almost like a reel-to-reel printing where he's arranging the chiplets and then transferring it, through a roller to the substrate. So it's really interesting, and he can deterministically place all these things before they get rolled, to the next stages. So it's a really interesting talk, and really will get your mind kind of imagining lots of things.
Wow. Okay. You don't happen to know how to reach him, do you?
I did reach him through the PARC website. You can send a message to him. He responded to me, and I sent him like the link to the things that we did at the last workshop, and also this work group. So I don't know what his status is with that now. It's only been a few days. Yeah.
Okay, I can do that. Okay. Anything else we should consider for the June workshop?
Bobby, is there a date set for the June workshop?
Oh, okay, that's so we're looking at either June 5th, 6th, or the 10th.
Okay.
I'm assuming people don't like Fridays and Mondays, so 10th is probably not a great. 10th is a Monday.
Right.
So is it fair to say no? You don't like Mondays and Fridays?
Actually, that would work good for me.
The 10th?
Yeah. Well, I was just looking calendar-wise. We have a big NXP event there at the Santa Clara Hyatt Regency on the 12th and 13th. It's our big kind of technology, kind of our IDF Silicon Valley show then on the 12th and 13th. So I was wondering if we might, I might be able to score a room or something that we could leverage. I haven't checked yet. That's why I was asking about the date to see if we could.
Okay. Yeah, then the 10th might work. There's some visitors from Singapore who want to attend, and so they're leaving town on the 11th, 10th and 11th. So I'm trying to see if we can squeeze it in, schedule the workshop before they leave. It's a research institute that works on packaging, so, and they were kind of interested in the ODSA. So I'm trying to schedule the date 10th or 11th.
Yeah, I mean the 10th would be, at least for me, because I'll travel in, but that's a little better because I can make one, just spend the week there rather than have two separate weeks. But either way.
Okay. Does anybody have any huge objections to the 10th right now, if we went that way?
I'm not sure I can get there on the 10th, but I definitely will be there the week before.
Okay. So June.
Same here. I don't think I'm the most important person to schedule around,
Yeah.
but I would not be able to join on the 10th.
That's the same for me, Boppy. 10th is a little bit of a challenge. I can do it if necessary, but
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like it's better to try to do it like the Thursday. Is that your plan, the Thursday, the week before? What's your Thursday?
Yeah, I think the 6th is a Thursday, 5th is a Wednesday, 6th is a Thursday.
Okay.
Right?
I'll probably do that.
Okay, what about the 6th? I know Netronome has a conflict, so I got to go internally and see what.
Either the
The
5th
sixth?
or the 6th is fine.
Okay.
Yeah, they're both fine. Thursday's a little bit better for me, but either way.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're both fine for me. Wednesday
Works
a little
fine.
better, but that's fine.
Both are fine for me.
Anybody else on the call? These dates work, don't work? Okay. Then the last one is, I think the previous conference, I wasn't able to schedule one. It'd be really nice to get a systems. Well, we had, I apologize. We had Whitney from Facebook talk about accelerators. It would be really helpful to follow up and have a other systems architects talk about accelerator deployment models, etc. So if anybody on the call knows a systems architect we can reach out to, please let me know, or feel free to reach out to them yourself. I thought that was a very useful talk, and just basically systems deployment models for for accelerators, etc. Okay. Anybody have any opens? Did I miss anyone? All right, opens going once, twice. All right, have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Bobby.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Bobby. Bye.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.